Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am finally done reading Schindler's List, and I'm finally done watching the movie. I finished watching the movie today, and boy, do I gotta say, it was hefty. What I mean by that is that this book is very heavy, but the movie is heavier, I guess you could say. So let's start with the book. First of all, the book. What I like about this book is that in certain chapters you will see pictures from for like what the section is about. You have the author note here, but if we go to the prologue, this is just the beginning before World War II. So this is in the autumn of 1943. And then we have events that happened in 1943 that are just, they're just, it's just about that. And then this is at the beginning. This is September 6th, 1939. So this is actually the very, very beginning of, before World War II. I think that's the best way I can describe it. It took a lot of my attention. This book took me longer to read, not because of how hefty it was, but just because I was processing on what I was reading, and I wanted to make sense of what I was reading. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm a history kid, meaning I love history. I love things that happened in the past, and I just want to make sense of why it happened. And another good reason why I like this book is that it actually brought me into the mind of one of Nazi's followers. And what I like about Schindler is that he was a guy who was an idealist. He wanted to just make money. He wanted to make profit during the war, so that way after the war he can just have so much money, because before the war he wasn't a really good businessman, but like some of his companies went under, and when World War II happened, he started thinking of what people needed and how they could and how he could get money. And when I was reading the book, it made sense that, he wanted somebody that understood money. He wanted somebody that could help him manage his business, because I think that's what he said, is that his problem was he didn't have a good manager or management. So he would own the company, and he would have a Jewish accountant by the name of Isaac Stern. And their friendship didn't really hit off at first, because it makes sense. You have a Nazi follower, you have a German who is coming to you directly and asking for you specifically because he heard of how well you do things, and he wants the best of the best. So with Isaac, when he first met Schindler, Schindler was telling him that this is what he wanted, and Isaac looked at him and goes, "I'm a Jew. I don't know if I can really help you." And Schindler looked at him and goes, "Well, I'm a German, so there's that." And it's like, okay, okay. And Stern, when you hear about what he was thinking, how he was feeling, he just thought it was very strange at first. But then when he first come to work for Schindler, he kind of could see that Schindler was trying to be a good person towards the fellow Jews, towards his workers, because he understood that in order for you to have good workers, you need to treat them nicely and respectfully. But again, this is during World War II. And in Schindler's mind, he wasn't really thinking it like that. He was just more like, yeah, I'm gonna use these people. I'm gonna use them for the war effort. I'm gonna use them to make me money, and that's it. There's that. I don't really care what happens after that. But as the war goes on, and everything just starts to make sense, Schindler's humanity goes from I want to make money to what we're doing to these people is wrong. It's so wrong on so many levels. Because the thing that clicked for him more is that when they were doing the liquidization of one of the ghettos, I can't remember which one, but when like he knew who was in charge of that, and we'll get into that later. He knew who was in charge of it, and he knew why they were doing it late at night, to give like a sense to the people that are living in the ghetto, to give them that sense of like everything is fine, everything is normal. But everything wasn't normal, you know. In the dead of night, Germans will be going into homes and houses and looking for their victims and just throwing them out to the streets, putting them wherever, just straight off killing them. And on one of these liquidations, he saw a little girl in a red coat. Now, the little girl in the red coat is very, very famous. And well, she's famous not for being a victim, but for just showing how young some of the children were that were put through this situation. And you'll learn about her in the book. And Schindler came to learn that her name was Gina, and people will call her the little girl in the red coat, because that's just what she wore all the time. It's just a red coat. She'll be standing there wearing a red coat, and then one day she's there, one day she's not. And Schindler, when he saw that she was among the bodies, he completely shattered and broke. And one day he went into his office talking to Isaac and instantly said, I want to save all of them. Let's save everyone. And Sir looked at him and goes, what do you mean, let's save everyone? He goes, Jews. I want to save each and every Jew that I can, that are working for me, that are around me. I want to save as many as I can. I want you to write names. I want you to write down who they're related to. I want you to write down the children. I want you to write down everything and everyone. So that's what Stern did. And this is where Stern and Oscar's friendship starts to develop, is that Stern no longer sees him as somebody that can take his life, because that's another thing too. You're working for a German. At any given point, he can just say you're not worthy and just take your life. But no, Schindler didn't want to do that, because the reason he didn't want to do that is because, one, he needed the Jews to work for him. He didn't want to buy more workers. He didn't want to train them. He didn't want to. He's like, no, I want these people because they know what I expect. They know how I want them to do things. I don't want production to be behind. But after seeing the liquidation and after seeing the little girl in the red coat just completely disappear, he goes, no, enough's enough. I'm going to take a stand. I'm going to do whatever I can. And he had so much money to pay for the workers that he went around to every camp around him and bought their Jews, brought them over. And it's just really interesting to see how one German man who went into this war thinking, I'm going to make millions of money, to The money doesn't matter. I want to save each and every one. That's what matters most. Like, humanity matters most at this point. And you'll read about the people that he saved and understand what they went through. And it's just heavy. It's just really, really heavy. Um and when you're watching a movie, it adds more to what you read to a whole other level, because I'll be honest with you, I did not know that Schindler's List was based on a true story. I did not know it was a book, because when I first watched the movie, I watched it very innocently and not understanding what was happening. But when I rewatched it again as an adult, I watched this movie maybe 5 times, and the very first time I watched it, I didn't know it was based on a true story. But the second time I watched it, it finally clicked. I was like, oh, this is an actual real thing. Oh. And when you make that realization that you think that you go from fantasy to reality, it just changes everything. It just opens that door to, I want to learn more. And that's where I went, because after that second time of rewatching the movie, I rewatched it again and again. And then, because I just really liked that movie, not just because of, not because of, it is very traumatic, but I didn't watch it because it's traumatic. I watched it because I want to learn more. I want to learn more of, like, why they did the things they did. Why did they do the things they did? And I want to know what they were thinking, how they were feeling, like what was going on through their mind. So when you watch movies based on World War II, you have to take it like realistic fiction. Like, you have to take it as realistic fiction, because some of the movies are based on a true story, like Schindler's List. But if you watch Life is Beautiful, it's a realistic fiction movie, because it's real, but the characters themselves are not real. The story itself is not real, but everything that they've shown is real. With Schindler's List, that's how I took it. I took it as realistic fiction, because I knew about World War II. I just didn't know about the actual people that have been through this. The only real person I've known that went through something like that is Anne Frank, and everybody knows Anne Frank. But after Anne Frank, it just opened a whole new door. I'm like, I want to learn more about the people that were involved, the people that suffered. I want to learn if they were able to come back to reality. But it's just, it's a lot. It's really a lot to take in, and that's what's interesting too. Because if you read the Pianist, which is what I read, at the end of the Pianist, he was instantly thrown back into a whole new world, which was his old world before World War II. But it was hard for him to understand what was happening, because he went one day from having everybody he loved to losing everybody he loved to now being on his own without his family. And it's just hard. I can understand why it's hard to go from being like, I was a fugitive, to now I'm a free man. And with Schindler's List, it's basically how everybody, they call Schindler's List, they named the Jews that worked for him Schindler's Jews, because that's who they worked for, not who owned them, because basically they were slaves. But Schindler treated them with more humanity than anybody else. He gave them food, he gave them clothes, he gave them a place to live and thrive and get married and be with their loved ones without having the fear of that one day they're going to be taken away and never seen again. And that's what's been happening in all the different camps, is that they will say you're going to be with your family, but in reality you're not. But with Schindler, he will tell you you're going to be with your family. I'm not going to separate you. You're going to be together. The only time they were separated is when they were going into different trains. And this was after he bought every single Jew that worked for him. And the men went to one train, the women went to the other. But the men that were sent to Schindler's other camp that he had, because they were going to tear down his original place of business, so he had to move. So when he moved, he took the men with him, and he told the men, your women are going to come in a separate train, so don't worry, I will make sure they get there. The women never showed up. The women were taken to Auschwitz. And when they were taken to Auschwitz, they were given showers. They were given showers, but they weren't treated nicely. They still had that fear of like something could change, something is wrong, something can happen, to where Schindler sent, in the book, Schindler sent one of his secretaries to go to Auschwitz to get the women back to be with the men and to be with him. But his secretary got caught up in Auschwitz because they kept her there, and she was treated like Schindler's Jews. And she was telling the women that Schindler's coming. I know he's coming. He's going to come back for you guys. I promise you. I came here to set you guys free, but they wouldn't let you. So Schindler is coming. Schindler is coming. And they had to live with that word of hope that Schindler is coming. And then finally, when Schindler realized that his secretary wasn't coming, he went to Auschwitz, demanded that they all be sent back to him. But when they were sending the women back to him, they were keeping the children away from Schindler and the women. And Schindler went up to one of those soldiers up in Auschwitz and started saying, are you going to clean out my shells that I use for artillery? Like, are you going to polish them? Is your fingers going to fit and clean it and polish the artillery shells that we're making? No, I don't think so. That's why I need these children, because their hands are so tiny, they can go up inside the shell and clean it and polish it. So I need them. They're mine. They're coming with me. And that's another thing too with the second camp that he created. They weren't working. They were just living. They were actually maybe not living is the right word, but they were surviving under the care of a man that wanted to save them. And he saved over 1,100 Jews. And the book, the book did a really good job of telling the story and having you picture it. It did a good job of giving you the emotions, but when you watch the movie, it just hits you 10 times harder. There's a certain quote in there, and Schindler and Stern were talking about the list. They were adding names onto the list that they can remember, and they were saving everyone. And once the list was done, Schindler told Stern to leave a space at the bottom, because I'm going to add one more name. There's one more name on there that is truly important. I'm going to add her name on there, but I have to get her out first. And Stern showed him when it was done. He left a little space, and he showed Schindler the list, and he says, this list is life. I don't remember the exact quote. I have to rewatch it and I'll let you guys know, but that was the quote that Stern told Schindler is that this list is life. And then at the end of the movie, and at the end of the book, Schindler had to go on the run because the Allies were coming. And they were taking out the Germans. So Schindler, before he left, Stern and another circle of men made a little band with a Hebrew saying. I can't remember the saying. And they gave it to him as a gift. And Schindler instantly cried, and he's looking at his car, he's looking at everybody and says, I could have saved more. I could have saved so much more. I could have sold this car, that would have been 10 people saved. I could have sold my ring, that's one person saved. I could have saved so much more. But yeah, and I think that's something that is truly heartwarming is when you read stories based on a true story and you hear it's not really defeat, but more of like I could have done more, I should have done more, and being comforted by the people you did save. It speaks volumes, not just on who you are, but what you stood for. Again, you have a German Nazi follower who, in the end, regained his humanity and wanted to save the fellow Jews, and they accepted him as a part of him. And this story is really, really, truly touching. I love this book. I love the movie. This is an amazing read. If you do want to read it, I will let you know firsthand that it's very hefty. It's very heavy. It's very emotional. And you're going to have to take this with so much grace. I guess is the best word I can describe. Like you have to take it you have to take it in and understand what was happening. Because like I said, the very first time I heard of Schindler's List, I went in it blindly thinking that it's just, it's another movie. But after understanding the story and after understanding what was happening, it finally clicked for me. Because like I said, when I learned about World War II, I was in 2nd grade. I shouldn't have any business learning about World War II, but I did. And nobody really explained to me what happened in World War II. All I knew about World War II is that there was a group called the Nazis being led by Hitler who wanted to take out all the Jews. That's all I knew. And when I started watching more and more movies on World War II, it still didn't click for me. The only movie and story that did click, like I said, was Anne Frank. Because everybody talked about her. Whenever World War II came up, it was Anne Frank. But no one really talked about the other stories during World War II. And that's something that I want to do now, is I want to learn more about World War II. Like, I want to learn more about the I want to learn more about the people that survived and that went through World War II. Another thing, if you're going to read this book, you're going to come across a man named Eamon Goth. Oh boy, that man, you have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't really describe it on how you should be feeling when you read about Eamon. You're not gonna like him. You're not gonna like him. um, he basically will shoot and kill anybody and anyone just out of random. And he'll shoot it with the pleasure, with a smile on his face. It's the best way to describe it. And when and he loved beating his favorite servant, Helen, who was also on Schindler's List. She was the last name that Schindler wanted to add. But in order for him to add her to the list, he had to convince Eamon to basically sell Helen to him. But Schindler told Eamon, you can either sell her to me or you could play cards with her. Your choice. And in the book, he played cards. He lost on a game of 21. In the movie, he accepted payment. That's what he accepted. So, that's one thing I kind of didn't like, is what they changed, is that Eamon chose money. But again, if you understand Eamon as a person, if you read Schindler's List, you would understand, I think, why they changed that in the movie. Because now I understand it, why they changed it. Because Eamon didn't really care about Helen. Like, yeah, he wanted her, but not in the sense of wanting her. He just wanted her there so he can just keep hurting her and just, causing so much pain and grief in her. And it's just, and when he accepted payment, it's more of like, oh, okay, so it's not really coward. In my eyes, it's cowardly. You guys can watch it and say it's different, but in my opinion, I'm gonna say it's cowardly. But yeah, the book overall, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5. And I suggest, if you're going to get into learning about World War II, or you want to learn more about World War II, I would start with the pianist, and then Schindler's List, and then Anne Frank. I am currently going to go find some more books on World War II. I just watched the Sobibor, The Escape of Sobibor. If you haven't seen that movie, I suggest you should. It's another wow, it's another I'm not going to say a beautiful movie, but it's one of those movies where, like Schindler's List, it gives you hope for humanity. Is the best way to describe it. So I'm going to go find more books on that, because I watched the movie more than enough times that I love that movie too. So, yeah. I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Bye.